Work shouldn't feel like a drag, and you shouldn't have to sacrifice your soul for a job you love. Determined to rethink the future of work, she's out of her depth on purpose. With fresh ideas, interviews, and stories from her life on the road, meet Europe's newest digital nomad, Blair Palmer.
Hello and welcome to episode 87 of A Brilliant Gamble. I hope you are really well. We are in the UK, yay! We have a few weeks here with family and we are starting to research our next adventure, of which more in another show, but it's all starting to take shape now. And then later on in September, we're heading off to Ireland for a few weeks. I've never been to Ireland before. I'm really, really looking forward to it. So that's going to be great. And obviously, I'll be recording these from there as well. So I'll tell you how it's going. But being back in the UK has been great. It's really, really good to reflect. We've slightly removed ourselves from our weird lifestyle and we've been getting a bit more perspective, basically. And I wanted to use this show to share with you what I've learned so far on this trip. Now, some of these lessons I've talked about before, some of them I realized quite early on, and some of them have come to me a bit more recently. So these are basically, at this point, my 4 major lessons from this trip. We're 6 months in, pretty much, give or take a couple of weeks. And as I say, being back at home is a brilliant opportunity to put these lessons together and share them with you. So here we go. Lesson number 1. You won't know until you go. This was the very first lesson I learnt, and I have talked about it a little bit on the show before, and I've written about it too, but you know, we had all these plans before we set off on this trip, and we also spent a lot of money. We based our decisions on what to buy, and you know, how our lifestyle was going to be, all the planning, all of that, on our anticipation of what we would need and what would matter to us. And we had nothing else, of course. We had no experience. We'd not done a trip like this before. So we could only anticipate what we would need and what would matter to us. And we even knew we were doing it occasionally. I remember a couple of shopping trips where I knew that the things we were buying we probably didn't need, but our excitement was running away with us, and it is fun to buy things like solar chargers and camping stools and fairy lights, and it gives you a feeling that you're starting. You know, in lieu of being able to get started straight away, buying stuff for your next adventure gives you this sense that at least you're doing something. But a lot of what we bought and a lot of the assumptions that we made turned out to be flawed, of course. I mean, it doesn't matter hugely if you buy some fairy lights that you then don't use, but it does matter if you're making big decisions based on big assumptions. So if we go back to our decision to buy the VW, I'm glad we bought something. I'm glad that we didn't hang around thinking, well, because we can't afford the all whistles and bells motorhome that we would like, which we of course did eventually buy, but because we couldn't afford that at the beginning, I'm glad we didn't think to ourselves, well, let's not do it yet, let's wait. We could have been waiting forever. I'm glad we bought something. But it would have been better if I had held on lightly to that decision rather than tightly to that decision. It was very difficult when we began to realize that the VW wasn't going to work for us. It was very difficult to let go because I'd held on really tight to that decision at the beginning. I was convinced that this was the right thing to do, was to buy this van. It's harder to allow yourself to learn as you go when you're holding tightly to assumptions that you made at the start, or in fact, before the start of your adventure. As we start thinking about what comes next after we end our travel adventure, I'm really resisting, in the light of what I've learned this time, I'm really resisting making commitments beyond the first few that need to be made. Now, there's some commitments you need to make in order to get started, but we are leaving as many options open for afterwards. We're not making any decisions now really about what steps 3, 4, and 5 are, just steps 1 and possibly 2. Early decisions have to be made. You do the best you can with the knowledge that you have today. But beyond that, we will buy things as we need them, not in anticipation of needing them. And we will hold more lightly onto our romantic ideas that are based on Instagram pictures, which we, of course, know are not the truth, rather than holding on tightly to these decisions. So as we embark on our next brilliant gamble, I'm hoping that we will learn this lesson. You can't know until you go. Second lesson, changing your situation won't change your state, but it might expose what state you're in. Again, this is something I've spoken about before and I have written about, but I don't think I've actually done anything on the show about it in detail. I thought that I would feel very different when I was liberated from my financial worries, from the pressures of owning a house, from the 9-to-5 routine that I had. I really thought that if I took those things away, I would automatically feel different. And I did for a bit like when you go on holiday. But after a short time, all the worries that I had, I worried about still. If you're someone who worried about money before you made this change to your life, you'll worry about money after. If you felt like you never had enough time before you went on this adventure, you'll still feel that you never have enough time. I found myself when we were in Italy, and we did have a lot of time in Italy. I was not that busy. It's July, August time, and there's not that much going on with work. But I still found myself pottering around, tidying up, and getting quite frustrated about the tidying when I could have been resting or reading a book or just sitting and watching the view. And I would get to the end of the day and feel again like I didn't have any time, but it was because of me. It was because until a few weeks of this, it didn't even occur to me that I was doing this, that I could actually just pick up a book and read. It's fine. You don't have to stay busy until dinner, but the hard wiring will come out. So when you change your situation, you actually magnify after a little while, after this little honeymoon period, you magnify the stuff that you bring to the party. You always bring yourself wherever you go. And the only way around changing your state is to incorporate into your life practices that break your habits of thinking. So these will be things like meditation, being more in flow, more appreciation, activities that allow you to be more in appreciation, forcing yourself to sit still. All of these things you incorporate into your life to break the habits of thinking and the habits of behaving that you bring with you wherever you go. This does not mean you shouldn't go after your dream. You should go after your dream, but not for the reasons that you think. You think, or certainly I think, that going after my dream will make me feel better. I know a lot of people feel like that. Actually, what it will do is it will magnify what personal development work you still have to do in such a way that it's unavoidable. Before we went on this trip, I could blame my lifestyle for being so busy and so stressed. And after we embarked on this trip, I couldn't. There were no more excuses. It must be me then. So that's lesson number 2. Lesson number 3. If you're alone, you'll go home. You will give up if you have no one in your corner. At various times, people in my life have encouraged me to go home before I was ready. And sometimes I've wanted to as well. And you will give up if your desire to give up in that moment coincides with pressure from outside to give up. When someone else is telling you, or there seem to be indications outside of you that you should give up and go back to what's safe and known, and when that coincides with you having a bad day or you being in the belly of the whale or something going wrong for you, you will give up. Luckily, it hardly ever coincided for me. So other people wanting me to go home didn't happen on the same day that I wanted to go home, generally. But more importantly, there are people in my life who've continually said, stick with it, even in the hardest moments. And actually, I learned this lesson not so much from this trip, but from letting my hair go grey. The 4th or 5th month of letting your dyed hair grow out, for those of you that don't know, the 4th or 5th month is really tough. It looks bad. And, there's no hiding it at that point. And what I knew is that I would give up without a gang of people telling me to carry on. In fact, I nearly did. And I got that support with the hair, the grey hair, from the grey hair online community, from Facebook groups that I was part of. Not so much my friends, because with that, my friends hadn't got any experience of it. They didn't know that it was going to get better. But on the Facebook groups were people who'd been through that tough 4 or 5 months, and they could tell me and others in my situation, this is when it's hard. This is not the time to give up. It's going to start looking much, much better when you get to 6 months. And of course, it did. So you have to ask yourself who is going to be there for you in those dark moments. And you might be surprised when you get to those dark moments who is there. It might not be the people that you expected. It might be people that you had no idea were going to be there for you. They can be actual friends, they can be actual family, or you can find it from your online community, Facebook groups, Twitter, Instagram communities, wherever you like. And in those moments when you're feeling like you'll go home, if you don't have the support, you reach out to those communities and you tell them what's up, and they'll tell you what you need to hear. And the final lesson, the 4th lesson I want to share with you today, is there is no such thing as a balanced life. Now, I need to elaborate on this a bit, but I was really struggling a few weeks ago, as you know, and I was really hooked into this idea that there is such a thing as a balanced life, and I have not been able to find it, and I'm obviously doing something wrong, and I'm the person that podcasts about it and writes about it and coaches other people, and if I can't find a balanced life, then who can? This realization that there is no such thing as a balanced life was so liberating, but it comes with a caveat. There is no such thing as a balanced life, only a balanced mind. Or rather, you cannot have a balanced life without a balanced mind. No matter how many things you change, your working hours, your working location, the type of work you do, whether you work in a corporate or whether you work for yourself, how much help you get, whether you have a cleaner or a nanny or an au pair, no matter how many of those things you do, no matter how much money you have, no matter how much you earn, you won't feel balanced unless your mind is in balance. We talk a lot about the mechanics, flexible working and the remote working and being a digital nomad and parental leave and compassionate leave and beanbag rooms or ping pong rooms in offices. We talk a lot about that. But people are really struggling to find balance because work is not set up that way. There's never going to be enough time if you try to do everything, and it's not your fault, as we discovered in the interview with Sarah Jackson from Working Families a few weeks ago. Work has become all-consuming for most people. But even if we fix that, and we must fix that, people will not feel balanced, because being balanced isn't about having a balanced life. It isn't about working hours or working location or working environment. The two wants, the two desires that most people seem to have today is for more time and or more money. How often do we say that? We want more time, or we need more money, or if only we had more money, or if only we had more time. So we work hard to earn money in the hope that that money will buy us an enjoyable life. We believe that if we have a certain amount of money, we will be able to buy an enjoyable life, the things that will make us happy. But we're so busy and so worried about money that we don't really enjoy our lives. So we might have all the things that we thought were going to create an enjoyable life, the lovely holidays or second home or lots of help or an early retirement or any kind of retirement plan, in fact. We think that having those things that money buys will buy us an enjoyable life. but we're so busy and so worried about money that we don't enjoy it. And we also believe that if we had more time to relax, more time with our families, more time on our own, more time doing nothing, more time doing the things that we love, our hobbies, or whatever it is that brings you a sense of enjoyment. If only we had more time for that, then we would be happy, we would be fulfilled. But I've had a realization, and it's part of this realization is there's no such thing as a balanced life. And the realization is that people don't really want more money. Now, I'm not talking about people living on minimum income or people living in poverty. But for a lot of us, we don't really want more money. That's not really what we're after. What we want is to be able to appreciate what we have, because we have so much. We want to be able to look at our lives and say, this is the life. And no amount of money buys that for you for more than a few moments. The only way to appreciate your life, to love the life you have, is to learn how to love the life you have. Money won't buy a life you love. And people don't really need more time. When people say that they wish they had more time, what they're really looking for is peace of mind. Because you can have time, but not have peace. And if you have no peace, there'll be no joy in the time that you have. But if you have peace of mind, you'll enjoy even the little snippets of time you have. In fact, you'll enjoy all the time you have, because we all have the same amount. We all have the same 24 hours a day. And you can be peaceful about that 24 hours or not peaceful. And that's why there's no such thing as a balanced life without a balanced mind. None of this is to say that you shouldn't make changes, that you shouldn't go part-time or move to Croatia or live on a small holding or grow your business or write a novel or make a movie or homeschool your child or any of the other things that people tell me that they want to do. Do it. I could not have learned these lessons at home. I needed to strip away the excuses, to go for what I thought would fix things for me and make all the mistakes. And even though Ivy and I have started to hear the call to return, for which more another time, we want our adventures to continue. We want to keep chipping away at the conventions of life and keep trying to construct a life that works for us. We're not giving up on changing our lives. Our next brilliant gamble will be just as brilliant and probably just as much of a gamble as our big trip. But our expectations are changing. We don't expect the change of lifestyle to automatically change us. We now know that a change of lifestyle, whether big or small, just provides an opportunity to grow or evolve. And you can resist that opportunity and be determined that you just need more money, or to work fewer hours, or to get a cleaner or a nicer house, or change country again and somehow find this secret recipe for inner peace and fulfillment that way. Or you can accept that inner peace and fulfillment will always require you looking inside yourself some more, making choices about how to respond to what life throws at you, and developing strategies for actually loving what you have, whether it's living up to your dreams, to your imagination or not. There are more lessons for me to learn, of course, not least, how do I take the lessons from this trip into our next brilliant gamble? Can I, in effect, take them home? Or when the trip ends and the temptations to return to some kind of normal life are there again, is the pressure to return to old habits of behavior and of thought too great? Does this big trip become a thing we did once, or a step along the way to further self-actualization and further wisdom? We will see. That's it for this week. I hope you'll join me again next week. And in the meantime, please do stay in touch with us. We're on Instagram, Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're everywhere. And you can, of course, also come to our website to find out more about the courses that we're running and see some lovely photos of our big trip and all sorts of stuff that's on that website, and sign up for the newsletter. But I'm going to let the lovely, the delightful, and the very wise Ivy Palmer tell you all about that.
to hear from you. You can get all the episodes of this show plus read the blog and find out more about our travel adventure at www.brilliantgamble.com. Sign up to the newsletter and get an advance notice of the classes and programs Mummy is running. Plus, you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Brilliant Gamble. Finally, please leave a review and star rating for this podcast on iTunes, as it helps people find us and take a brilliant gamble of their own. Bye!